Look at how beautiful. Must have rained last night. I don't normally get clouds like this in LA. The earth was crying last night because I fell into addictions. I feel great right now. I've come across a threshold that is important for me to get through in the morning. And Friday and Saturday, the last 2 days, I have not crossed this threshold. Doesn't mean that today's gonna be a surefire thing because of the threshold that I just crossed. But a clear message that came through this morning was that I do this thing when I am setting the intentions for the day where I feel like I get over the hump of the noise that's in my head by setting a clear intention for the day. And that hurdle, for now, is so stressful for me to get over that when I get over it and I feel the space open up of I have the time to do these things. I have the time to do these things and I know what to do and I feel clear and I feel space open up. It feels like pressure's on me. And then by getting clear and setting a plan, the space opens out and the pressure releases. But because the pressure releases, I feel the space between here and there. And instead of producing in the space and expanding more, because the more that we produce healthily, the more the space expands, the more our capacity to hold expands, the more opportunities we attract. The bigger the opportunities we attract, the more abundance we can attract, the more we can attract, the more that we can bring in, because the more space we have, the more potential we have. And I do this thing where instead of expanding the space, I consume it. I feel the space and I consume the space by feeding my addictions, by doomscrolling, by just numbing myself on YouTube and Instagram. And it feels like I consume that space and then the pressure comes back on me and I feel it crushing me. And then I create space by getting clear and setting intentions and having goals and feeling into what I can actually do in the day. And then I consume it instead of pushing it more and more and more. And there is this balance I'm trying to figure out of like, can you expand the space without creating without creating tension? Is there tension in the intention? Like by pushing out, what is the word I'm looking for here? It's almost like maybe it's the way I'm thinking about it. It's like by pushing space off of me, by pushing pressure off of me and creating space, it's almost like there is tension that I'm like pulling back or pushing against, and I'm holding the tension. I just release and let trust be the space between me and the pressure. There's something there and it feels close, but it's not quite it, or it's not enough. It feels like I can expand the space without having to hold pressure away from me. I can disband that pressure by trusting. But I have to healthily trust, because if I blindly trust and I'm not setting intentions, then I don't have a fire under my ass and I'm not reaching my potential. There's an ebb and flow there that I got to figure out, you know? It's like we got to be stretching to our bounds and stretching our edges and getting into the uncomfortable, but we also can't just be burning out, you know? It's not sustainable. It's not a consistent route to becoming the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So, yeah, I'm figuring that out. I don't have a clear solution to that yet, but it feels like there's something that's healthier. There's a healthier route to expanding the space, and then expanding the space, and expanding the space, and expanding the space. Eventually, there's got to be a contraction. Expansion and contraction. There's got to be the pressure's got to come back in, but how can I intentionally release so that that pressure's coming back in is not only wanted, but predicted? Like, I know it's coming now. Maybe it's just intentional release, like intentional rest, intentional time spent doing things that aren't necessarily productive, but are healthy and make me happy and make me stronger, like rest, family time, social time, nature, things like this. Those can be the releases. I wish making art was the release. Why is making art not the release? It feels like art is in the space of production. It should be in the release. And if art was in the space of release, then the space would be expanding all the time. Because I would be ebbing and flowing between productive creation, which expands the space, and just release creation, which expands the space. Why is creating not a release for me? I feel like I've experienced it a few times, but my mindset around it, there's something wrong with it. It should feel like a release to get to explore the crafts that I love, to make music in the morning, to explore how to make visual art. I want to learn these things. I think it has to do with my dopamine addiction. It's confusing me, my actual chemical reaction to when I am creating the things that I love and want to be creating the things that I love. It's like the dopamine it's not releasing at the rate and the level that the doomscrolling gives me. And because of that, I crave the doomscrolling more than I crave creating. And the only solution to that is to just fully cut it. Have a very strict discipline with it, which I have the last 60 days. But I could be better. And the big dips are really fucking up the flow because it's like overload, mass overload. Last 2 days were mass overload dopamine, and makes the rebound so much harder. If I dip in for like an hour, then I can get back into the flow. Doesn't mess up the whole day. But if I get in for like 4 hours, then the rest of the day is just going to be the rest of this, And then it screws up the rebound. The wind up for this week it's going to be a little bit harder because the last couple of days has just been like full on fucking dopamine overloading. I have to be able to stop the mass overload. I have to be able to stop it. I can't have another mass overload in this challenge. The next 40 days, I got to make sure that I'm fully clean, no mass overloads. It's probably unrealistic for me to think that I won't have some dips, but like 1 hour, 2 hour dip in a week, or like a couple days stretch on the weekend when I slip a couple times, or just am intentional. Like, hey, you know what? I feel a slip coming. I'm just going to be intentional. This is my 2 hour window. I have to stick to it. I get 2 hours to just binge, and I have to stick to it because when I'm unintentional with it and it's mindless, it could go all day. And the end goal is to have such good discipline that I don't even have to set an intention to do our 2 hour thing. It's like, oh, I have 2 hours. I'm going to create. I'm not going to binge. What the fuck? But I have to do this in baby steps. I have to whittle it down in some way because, I just have to adapt. I know that I have a really strong addiction, and I've got to figure out different ways to approach it. So that feels good. I'm going to try to not have a single mass overload for the rest of this challenge, which is 40 plus days. And I am not going to enter into it unintentionally. If I feel it's about to happen, then I either need to rest, get away from my computer, or if I'm really just hitting a wall, have an hour, just hour block. This is an hour. You get to binge for an hour. Make the most of it. And I feel like just like setting an intention to binge alone is just gonna make me sick. Like being inside of that container that I created for myself is gonna make me want to create. Be like, dude, are you serious? You're setting intentions to binge? Why don't you set an intention to create? Let the creation be the release. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm not gonna stop adapting. I'm not gonna stop trying. So I already know my list for the day. I just have to follow through on it. So let's get it. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful day it is. Look at these clouds. Look at these clouds. We're riding high on a high and beautiful wave. High and beautiful wave. We're riding high on a high. We're riding high on a high. We're riding high on a high. Riding high on a high. Riding high on a high. Riding high on a beautiful wave. High on a beautiful wave. We're riding high on a high and beautiful wave. Riding high on a high and beautiful wave. Yo, I'm getting my ass whooped. What's happening again? I'm getting my fucking ass whooped. These weekends are just terrible. These weekends have been terrible. I don't know what I need to go back and watch the videos from earlier in this challenge because it feels like, it doesn't feel like I know that I had a pure stretch of a few weeks. And I just don't know what the fuck I was doing on the weekends because this is so difficult. It's so difficult. I think one thing that it's a big no-no is, again, entering into the infinite internet casino without an intention. Because without the intention, it's just like the chemical, like dopamine, mindless addict just takes over and wins. And it's tough because it's like, this addict has been winning for like more than, half my life, if I really add it up. So like, I know this addict like more than I know this side of me that I genuinely want to have come through. And I just want to get to know that part of me that loves to create, that craves creation so much more than I want to allow this addict to steer any longer. I want to get to know the artist in me so much. So much. It's going to come down to how bad do I want it? It's so hard. It is so hard to beat this addiction. It's like every waking moment, I just want to fucking just jam my fucking phone in my face and do nothing. It's so hard. I'm gonna figure it out. I got through a big hurdle today. I got one thing done that I've been putting off for months. And because I got over that hurdle, it was just like, I got over it. I did the baseline. I met the absolute minimum. And then, for whatever reason, I allow the addict to steer. Oh my God. So frustrating. I'm going to figure it out. Going to figure it out. Story start all over again tomorrow. See you soon. Much love.